December 7th, 1941, a date which will live in infamy.
When was that?
On December 7, 1941, the Imperial Japanese Navy attacked the American naval base at Pearl Harbor. The strike was intended to cripple the U.S. Navy so as to prevent their further involvement in the war. However, the very next day, FDR signed the war declaration to Japan. By this point in history, there had been a growing population of Japanese immigrants in the U.S. These were called Issei, first generation, and they'd been denied naturalization rights due to previous laws in the U.S. However, the Nisei, their children, were born on American soil and were fully fledged American citizens. Following the attack, feelings of fear and distrust towards Japanese were expressed in large numbers. In February of 1942, FDR signed Executive Order 9066, which ordered the containment of all people of Japanese descent in internment camps. The 10 camps housed over 100,000 Japanese Americans. In early 1942, FDR created the WRA, War Relocation Authority. Just 9 months after its creation, the WRA opened the 10 internment camps and dozens of other detainment facilities. The first to be moved to these camps were those Japanese citizens who were living in close proximity to military areas. However, soon, even those who lived inland, near no military facilities, were transported as well. Yet not everyone in the government agreed with the camps. J. Edgar Hoover, head of the FBI at the time, thought that the camps were unnecessary, that any Japanese citizen who was possibly involved in the bombing of Pearl Harbor would have been detained in the weeks following the attack.
So we met at the courthouse and they took us by bus to Tamparan. We didn't know where we were going. They didn't tell us where we were going. See, we never got official letters individually. What they did was they posted signs up on telephone poles in the areas where they thought the Japanese Americans lived. We didn't know where we were going, and all we knew was that the Army gave this order to go there, and of course we were ordered to go by a certain time, and we were told that we could only take what we could carry, so we had to get rid of everything by that time. You know, like some people had property and things like that, had to sell it. It was really kind of chaotic because some people had to get rid of, who had homes, had to get rid of their refrigerators, their stoves, furnitures, and things like that. Not many owned homes, but they owned the furniture and things, because they couldn't own homes, you know, because of the law that was passed that Asians could not buy property, you know. We figured that it wouldn't be too far because it was buses. If we thought it was far, they would take us on a train, you know. They were in such a hurry to get us away that they hadn't had the camps made yet. So they put us all into these temporary places, and a good many of them were at these racetracks, and Tamparan was one of them, of course. I don't know if it's a forgiven, but it's just one of those things that happened, we figured, you know.
When internment was finally declared unconstitutional, detainees were given $25 and a train ticket home. If they returned to their previous neighborhoods, they would face discrimination and disdain. If they returned to Japan, they'd face a country they no longer felt was theirs.
In the meantime,
We are setting a standard for the rest of the world in the treatment of people who may have loyalties to an enemy nation. We are protecting ourselves without violating the principles of Christian decency.
The legislation that I am about to sign provides for a restitution payment to each of the 60,000 survivors, surviving Japanese Americans, of the 120,000 who were relocated or detained. Yet no payment can make up for those lost years. So what is most important in this bill has less to do with property than with honor. For here we admit a wrong. Here we reaffirm our commitment as a nation to equal justice under the law.
In the decades following internment, a strong initiative to collect testimonials in any and every form began. Databases were formed, books were published, all with the goal of raising awareness of the particular circumstances surrounding Japanese internment. Although associations like the JACL had advocated for decades for redress, it wasn't until the 1970s that the first of the camps were made into National Historic Sites. Bainbridge Island was the first place where evacuation occurred. Its memorial, titled Nidoto Nai Yoni, Let It Not Happen Again, contains a 270-foot long wall, 1 foot for every person who was forced to leave their home. In Washington, D.C., the walls of the National Memorial have the names of the 10 camps, and beneath, the number of people detained there. The pool of water represents reflection, and the 5 granite stones, the 5 generations of Japanese Americans who'd lived in the nation when redresses were finally issued. Ina Kamu, the sculptress, has said that she chose cranes because of their great symbolism in Japanese culture. The image of wings and birds has always symbolized freedom, yet Akamu believes that this sculpture can speak to every ethnic group and every individual, much like the tragedy itself.